This is Keyed In with Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. And now, here are your hosts, Max Rabin and Brent Jackson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Keyed In podcast. I'm Max Rabin.
And I'm Brent Jackson.
Today our guest is Dana Rice. Dana Rice is, she runs a super successful team in DC and Chevy Chase, Maryland. When I am showing houses to buyers anywhere like upper Northwest or like close in Bethesda, it's like, oh, it's listed by Dana Rice or someone on your team. Yeah. So you're like everywhere up there. It's really incredible. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for noticing all of our listings. We have a really nice time. We have a nice team.
Yeah.
So it's always
You have
fun.
a good book of business. So we haven't crossed paths since I've been doing this for 20 years, but I was looking at your home snap last night and it's like, you have Montgomery County like just swamped. It's like you pull up and you can't even see the county because it's all of your little red and green.
I totally was just looking at that earlier and it was just like, I mean, very covered.
Yes.
You know what's amazing is when I first started this job, and I've only been licensed now for 9 years. So I started by just being a buyer agent with the woman who sold me my house 25 years prior. And I thought this would be a really cool idea, cool job. I came from Fortune 500 sales and, corporate identity and marketing. And I thought, well, this would be a good transfer of skills. And I didn't really appreciate the whole, top producer and everybody talking about how much they sold. Because of course I sold nothing. And I didn't understand why that was so valuable. But of course now I realize all of that experience and all of that depth of knowledge really does educate your client better because you've been through it. So I'm rolling through some years now. So 9 years in, almost a whole decade.
You're only 9 years though.
Yeah,
That's impressive.
That's really impressive.
Thank you. Well, I think it was, I started by going into a very small step, which was I would do anything she asked me. I came from major, corporate job where I was making a lot of money. I stayed at home for 14 years and I was, thinking how would I take these skills and translate it. And I went and for 2.5 years, I just sat by her side. Her name is Diana Keeling. She's with Coldwell Banker. And I just did anything and everything that she wanted me to do. And so then when Compass came to town, I was one of the early adopters. And I really liked this idea of it had no identity. It was literally without a brand. Nobody knew what a Compass was. And I thought that was really exciting. And not to mention, they said, oh, you've been licensed for 2.5 years? Sure, we'll give you everything you need to build a team. They just let me have it. And I did. So
It's been a win-win.
It has been.
I was at a Compass Brokers Open yesterday and it was an off-market listing. And this goes to your fame, but some of the people, they've been listening to the podcast and they're like, who's the guest this week? And I'm like, oh, it's Dana Rice from Bethesda. And I'm like, oh my God, she's a megastar. We love her. She's so great. So your reputation precedes you.
It's so humbling because I feel like I've not been any different than I ever have been. And when you realize that the marketplace really needs advisors, I don't need to sell another house. I need you to make a very good decision about what's going on in the marketplace. And I know you guys opened up, you were looking at what went under contract this morning even. You have to know in real time and you have to be comfortable with that. And so everyone on my team has never been a real estate agent before. Not one person came with real estate experience.
Is that by design?
I'm very organic in how I sort of bring people to the team because you have to have a feeling of absolute service. We like to say we're the Four Seasons of real estate. I don't want you thinking about anything that is my job, something that I do. And that's why the houses look so great. We are in competition with so many other properties. And that's what I do all day long. I have a staging company. I have an on-site designer. It's all free to our clients so they can go out and do whatever they want.
So, all right. So you have in-house staging and in-house design.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a huge difference maker.
Okay. So when I first started and I was like, why are we not, you should have seen us the first day we staged a house. I was on Facebook Marketplace. There was some free table in Friendship Heights. I drove over, sweating. I'm like dragging this table in. And that right there, I thought this makes a difference to these buyers, to our photos, to every part of the experience of selling this. Why wouldn't I try to control that environment? And so we've had people actually literally hand us the keys. Once they see the machine at work, they're like, okay, can I just get out of here? I'll go to an Airbnb. You guys
Right.
take over, because you sell for more. It goes faster. There's all these things about staging. It's absolutely 100% important to make sure that you're competing and you look amazing. And so if I can control that, that's what I try to do.
So I have a couple questions on that. So you have your own staging company. Did you acquire all the furniture, the moving trucks, storage?
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk us through that whole process? Because we've thought about it on our front as well. I mean, we spent any given year like $150,000 to $200,000 in staging bills, and we've talked to other stagers about, can we acquire you, do partnerships? But it's at the end of the day, it's like we could just do it, but then you've got to have the movers, the
It
interior design
is,
person.
Staging stinks. It's hard. It's sweat. It's moving things. It's somebody's in a
People
house.
don't like to move once, much
Right.
less like
And you're
multiple.
doing it. And the movers are a very specialized set of movers, because they're not just packing up and moving. It's the designer saying, that doesn't work. Move that. Take that back to the warehouse. Come back. Now, I will tell you my secret. I am very unique. My sister-in-law is from Spain. She has more design skills than anyone I've ever met. She came from a whole line of other kinds of jobs, diplomat, she worked at the embassy, all of these things, but she is a superstar designer stager. And what happened is, of course, I said, can I just get you full-time? COVID hit, she was working from home. I said, you're talented, let's do this. So she's on staff as our listing coordinator, and she has spatial skills. I mean, it's really a skill set, and it's very hard. It's like a wedding photographer. You have that one chance to make it, and everybody hates the wedding photographer by the end because, they're getting it, but then the magic happens when you see the final results. So
Do you outsource to actual movers?
we have a set of movers that are hired. So everything I own all the furniture. We have a warehouse. She manages all the movers. She has a staff that comes in, and they're all by the hour. So if anybody wants to do this, it's very hard to find those skills. She has vision, and the part about staging that I think is really hard for most agents is you're already dealing with the client. You have enough going on. You've got multiple personalities, and maybe there's a dog there, and they didn't do the laundry, so it's all over the house. You have to pick that up, and then all of a sudden the house isn't going on the market until the next week, or they're not ready and it's not ready. I mean, you have to be so nimble in how you manage that process. Otherwise it's a disaster. So I find that holding it in-house is just a lot easier for us.
What was the threshold of business where you started working on your own? So then when you went to Compass, you said they gave you everything.
Oh my
you needed.
God. I walked into an empty office.
Okay.
They were rolling out the red carpet, no money, just so everybody knows, like this idea, like they didn't even have that going on yet. I saw an empty office with 5 desks, and they said, do whatever you want. And I thought, okay, that to me is exciting. For some, it would be paralyzing. And for me, it was the most exciting thing ever. And I work very closely with another one of the things that I brought to bear, because I didn't know any different. I didn't know how to run a real estate company. I didn't know that there were different things. I had no concept of how I was supposed to do this. So I only did it the only way I knew how. And another one of our colleagues from another brokerage said to me one day, she said, you came into the market and you were fearless. You were fearless. And I thought, I didn't even know what to fear. I only knew how to try to be great. And that's how it worked. I'm just blessed with people.
But I just want to say that's brilliant that a lot of realtors would say, God, why is that one agent so successful? For you, it sounds like you're like, what can I do? Not necessarily to separate yourself, but what can I do to make this business work as efficiently in the way that I would hope that it would be run? And the answer is definitely want to have control over the way things are presented as much as possible.
I mean, our average days on market is 5. And that's literally average days on market if I was taking single family homes, because I need the furniture to go to the next house. I need them to make the most money in the shortest amount of time because it's already chaotic in their house. We do a lot with vacant homes, obviously, but the majority of people don't have the blessing of just walking out of the house. So we will I'll tell you the really funny part about staging is everybody's different. And I have very dear friends who I've sold their houses, and you walk in their house, this is their domain. Nobody likes to be told their baby is ugly. And we'll say, well, maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that. So it's kind of nice to have this buffer, this Spaniard who's out there, no filter. I don't know if you know people from Spain, but like there's absolutely no filter. Just that's ugly. And
it comes from the other person and not directly from
it doesn't come from me, but any stager would probably love to be in that role for us. But it's nice because, her business is wholly separate. She does all sorts of other business. We have other people on the team that are also contractors and designers as well. But this in-house thing, that makes it a lot easier in terms of controlling not only the cadence of the sale, but also, oh no, actually somebody has COVID, we can't go on the market. Let's switch those two houses, and we can control that. It's very hard.
How much furniture do you have can you furnish 2 houses, 3 houses?
We have a 3,500 square foot warehouse in Kensington. Right now we have staged probably 4 whole houses are staged, including a new build. Everything that is done, I should have brought Ema. I should have brought her in here because what she does is pretty magical. And she knows where everything is. She knows where every pillow is. She knows where every piece of art is. And that's just one component of the job that we do. And what's really nice is as realtors running a business, and we have an ops team, and we have, art directors, and we have all of these things going on, at least we know the real by our side person is with us, and she only works for us in terms of staging. She oftentimes gets approached, but
I'm sure.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun, actually.
We're speaking with Dana Rice from the Dana Rice Group at Compass. So you talked about you've got you run a team. I mean, obviously we talked about the staging and how that sort of works. I mean, we could probably talk about that for an hour straight. It's like a logistical thing.
Yeah.
But what about the other agents on your team? How did they come to the team, and how did you start working with them?
So I actually started, like I said, I walked into Compass and there was nothing there, and I relished that. I love this idea that we were making something out of nothing. And I had a client that was supposed to move. She moved out of her apartment and was scheduled to move into the house, and a huge snowstorm hit. So the truck couldn't get down the street. She's out of her house. She has a nanny, a 4-year-old, and her. So she moved into my basement. I said, well, why don't you come and live in my basement for, again, 4-season service, whatever you need, I'm there. So she comes upstairs. She's sitting there. My husband's like making eggs. Her son's bouncing around. And I said to my husband, God, wouldn't it be great if I just had somebody who understood design? I needed a right-hand man. I had never worked with a team before. And I just sort of put it out there as this idea, like, wouldn't it be great if I had somebody who understood design and service and just wanted to learn alongside me? And I'm telling you, my client was sitting there drinking her coffee, and she said, I know someone. And that is exactly how I've gotten every single person on my team. It has not been, I seek certain things. It's more of, I believe in energy. I believe in the universe of that kind of thing. And I said, I need this kind of person, not what skills and, how much business they were doing. I needed a person to be alongside me. And so that woman was Crystal. She's still on the team. She's off having babies and running a construction company, and, does design work, but we're all sort of symbiotic, and naturally we join together. It's like a little bit of we do have men on the team. A lot of people are like, oh, you have a sorority over there. And no, we have men. We definitely have a variety of people.
Can you walk us through the rest of the group as far as operations, contract to close, listing coordinator? Like how does the...
So we are a ninja team. We're a ninja team. I keep getting told, I work with Tom Ferry coaches. I have another woman who does all of our visioning. Once a year we sit down and we don't even talk about numbers. We talk about vision of the team and productivity and what you want in your life. And, once you handle all the personal things in your life, the rest of the stuff sort of manages itself. So our team I'm the team lead, but I have 2 very senior agents, Karen Kelly and Lisa Resch, and they do $40 million themselves. We have other agents that came organically, like I said, to the team just because they were great at skills, never sold real estate before. We have a marketing person, the designer, listing coordinator. We have a part-time listing coordinator, does all of our initial, startup and signs. And we have a runner. and we use Compass's transaction management. So we have one dedicated TC who just does our business, and that's been a real game changer as well, because it's already there. They know all the systems. She's virtual, and she just manages all of that stuff. I can't believe the difference in my business when I finally stopped thinking about, did I call the title company? You know, did they drop the check off? And instead of me worrying about those things, I now can worry about the bigger picture, which is, you know, working with the clients, holding hands with them, that sort of thing.
I always use the analogy, it's like a doctor's office. I would be afraid if I walked into the doctor's office and the doctor was checking me in, and then the doctor works as the nurse and the PA, and then the
calls the
accountant
insurance company.
Calls the insurance
Okay,
company.
I'm
It's like,
so stealing that
but it's
because
like I'm the doctor. I'm here to like do the surgery, and then like we have a team of people to help support us to get you to the next level.
I think the problem for all of us, once you get a certain business and then you're getting the business, you don't ever want to lose that touch. Like, I still do buyers. I have to do buyers. Buyers in our market, I try to explain to anyone around the country. I'm going to a conference next week. We sell first, then they sell. We buy first, then sell. Buyers here buy first, then they, settle or what have you, and then we turn around and sell their house, which is so opposite of much of the marketplace, which is you have to sell your place first and then you buy. And so if I lose touch with the buyers, because buyers are labor intensive, I lose touch with my relationships with them. I don't get to know them. I don't see them interacting with each other. I don't know what they like and dislike. And so I keep buyers really in the mix, because listings are easy once I know who they are, and then we can kind of work through the listings. So
That's smart.
I probably do more. I do 50-50 buyers and sellers still.
I work with plenty of buyers. I might actually work with more buyers than I do sellers at this point. It's the business that keeps coming my way.
Right?
What can I say?
Yeah.
And every time I'm going out to show a property and meet a buyer, like, pick your random time when it's time to go show, a buyer wants to see something. I'm like, am I doing this? I've been selling real estate 22 years, so it's a little longer. But it's like, am I still doing this?
You are.
It's like, it feels like am I still starting over again? But it's just, that's the job. That is literally the job.
That's the job. That's when they want you by their side.
Yeah.
And it is really hard to be there for everybody. Like I always say, it's like a good buddy movie. Like I have Rose. Rose is my licensed coordinator, and she's my right-hand man. And then the agents are out there. They're also doing buying and listing. I don't divide like, okay, you're an agent, you can't do a listing. Of course you can do a listing. You're the relationship with that person. If it's your listing, it's your listing. And we just support from the, from the back end. We don't want the client to see the seams of our business. We just want them to experience something so easy. And I will tell you, the major thing that I recognize now as I started growing into this business, then I started looking at other businesses, I thought, oh my God, how did we get here? Like, this is pretty remarkable. It's not me. It's the symphony of everybody together. It has nothing to do with me. I just had an idea, and then the people that came in really are dedicated to service, and we are really cutthroat competitors. That's the other. You have to have the drive for competition. You have to. And the worst is when one of us knows the other one also has a buyer for the same property, and the walls go up. We don't talk to each other. Like, it's really, I'm very, very proud of our team, because we never yield. We stay in our lane, and that's very hard to do. Yeah. And if I saw someone on my team breaching that, it would really piss me off. I would be so angry, because you can't get back honor. It's over once you breach that. So
Correct.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I mean, for your team, especially because you guys, so especially over the last two and a half years, your key part of the market is single family homes in the most popular locations in the entire area.
Yeah.
So every week there's like one house to sell, and you probably have two agents who are both with buyers for the same house.
It's true. And I'm telling you that the reason it worked, like I know how hard it is to be on both sides. I hate this idea. Sometimes my sellers will be like, oh, just write it up. You have the buyer, write it up. And I say, oh no, everybody has to be in their lane. First of all, it's illegal to represent two parties in the state of Maryland, and the buyers can waive their rights, but the buyers deserve representation. So it is funny when we know that two of the agents have buyers, but you guys know this, you walk in, they all don't love the same thing. They may be competing, but they don't love it the same way.
Sure.
So it's always worked out.
Usually, yeah, they're going to value it differently. Like someone might be their forever home; they want to stay there forever, whatever the reason being. But another person might value it 5% less. If it's an escalation, it's like it is what it is.
It is, the worst is when you're calling the lender and the lender is writing the same letter for multiple people. And yeah, I work with a lender who's never, ever told me until after the fact. Like he's also really, really good about, I don't want to know. If I see you doing something unethical, I will never forget that. And I'll never trust you again. So you got to protect that. You really do.
Well, I think it's easier to keep the lines divided than people may let on. I mean, we're still just, you do have to kind of stay in your lane in order to continue doing this job effectively over time, because people will talk.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, over the years, I've definitely, I've known agents who had a reputation, like as soon as you would mention their name, there would be someone else would say, the look on their face. So you don't want that.
What's really hard is educating the clients, because, and you guys have this too, they say, oh, well, they're with your brokerage. Well, you must know them. And I say, I don't know them. Well, they're in your office. Okay, maybe they're in my office. I don't sit next to them. They have their own book of business. We're all independent contractors. Just because we're all under the same umbrella does not impact you. And that's sometimes hard to reinforce to people, that we're not all in cahoots. I really do want to represent you. I don't want to make some deal happen. That would be the worst if somebody said, well, you just wanted to sell it. And I don't ever want that to be somebody's reaction to us.
Are you using a CRM? Are you using essentially Compass's CRM system?
Yeah. So they bought Contactually, and then, am I using a CRM? Not like I should be.
Sure.
I mean, I was still in the world of Excel spreadsheets. And I remember when I first started, I literally could name all of my clients. Well, now it's gotten a little bit unwielding that I cannot name all of my clients. So I'm doing it, but I'm more of a social media person, and I don't have a regular newsletter, and it's fine. It's just, I know some people really love to consume the newsletters, which is great. And so you should communicate with them. That's where they want to be, but I'm not into that.
So you still have the Excel spreadsheet? You just keep track of that as well?
No, I put it into the CRM finally.
Everything's
I finally hired a friend of mine, and I said, you just chase me down and you book these things, because I know I have all the names, their dogs, how old their kids are, and it's just the factor of putting it in. So finally.
You do birthday cards, holiday cards, or?
No, we'll do, we will do.
She's too busy, man.
Right.
We do things based on probably seasonality. And like, I have a neighbor in my neighborhood. She wrote a book. The book was based in our Bethesda neighborhood. It had a featured character that was a blonde real estate agent and her name was Daisy. And so the book was this whole amazing thing. And I mean, you guys should read it. It's called I Don't Forgive You. And it's got all sorts of little snippets of Bethesda and Chevy Chase and life in DC. And so we bought a lot of those books and had her sign some and gave those out as gifts. So depending on what it was. But.
Is Daisy is it Dana?
Let's just say that when she was writing the book, I had some women come up to me and they said, we heard you're in a book. And I said, what are you talking about? Oh, Aggie's writing a book. So it's a murder mystery. And she just did another one. Anything that's like super hyper local that we can then present to our clients that comes, something that says, welcome to the area.
I think I want George Pelicanos to write a book about me. You know who he is, right?
No, who's that?
He was this famous crime and drama writer he's from Silver Spring. He actually wrote a lot of the stuff for The Wire. He's a producer for HBO now. Local guy.
See?
A lot of crime drama.
Just tell him you'll be background.
Just look me up, man. I can be a character in something, right? Look, I am a character.
You are.
Right?
You definitely are. So, yeah, for sure.
How about what hasn't worked well? It sounds like we got an idea of like some of the secret sauce. What are things that you've done that hasn't worked?
I would say the typical, growth is sloppy. You got to be very forgiving of yourself. Like, we're all doing this on our own. Honestly, there's no set way to do this. And you have to be, I'm a productive person. I expect greatness, and it's hard to not know exactly what to do. And so you're always measuring yourself against others. And I wish instead of volume, I mean, I love that everybody's looking at volume, but it's not fair. My volume is 1.2 million is my average sale. That is not to say that I am somewhat better than my colleague in Baltimore who does the same amount of transaction. Her average sale is 500. It's not the same. And so I wish there was a way to sort of classify us so that we know when we're working with you, you get a certain level of service then, because you guys know. I mean, I had somebody last year blitzed on the phone trying to negotiate a contract. And I thought, there's 7 offers on the table. This buyer has no idea that their agent is so drunk that the agent cannot communicate properly. And it was very depressing because I thought, they'll never know. They won't know the level of service they're missing. And they wouldn't have won anyway. So I didn't feel so bad. But I really worried about that. It was really sad. But then again, I will always remember what I'm dealing with when that person comes in and puts an offer in and that sort of thing. So it's not my business. I mean, I feel really bad for that person, but what's the worst thing you've ever seen? You guys have been at this a lot longer.
Well, a recent anecdote for me is I recently got a 1-star review on Zillow.
Really?
Yes.
Like a bot or a real 1-star review?
No, a real one.
Oh, man.
And it was a transaction that I really like you're talking about having like the personal touch on everything. This was one where I didn't even have a chance.
Yeah.
They had seen the house without me at an open house. They wanted to write an offer. We talked about everything. I gave them my professional advice. I was actually away on vacation during all of this.
Of course.
I mean,
of course.
Like I'm away. And so the offer was negotiated, went through, they did the inspection. Some things came up, we negotiated that. Like things were normal in my perspective. Yeah. And at the end of the transaction, they felt like their needs as first-time buyers hadn't been met and that they weren't responded to correctly. And also, I didn't even, at the final walkthrough was coming up, I had COVID that week.
Oh,
right. So I didn't even get there. And it was just like, I felt at the same time where I was like, well, these were the circumstances. I have to accept this.
Yeah.
Like, I also felt like I didn't get to have any of like personal touch and meet these folks. And I think that might've had something to do with it. I think, people want to feel like they have their professional advisor personally.
And you know what? You were there. I mean, maybe you weren't physically there, but that's the part of the job I think is really hard is you did everything you would have done had you been standing right next to them. And it was like, they didn't feel as if
I felt I did, but I can't, people have their own perspective on things and they felt so compelled to write the review.
Goodness gracious.
And it's like, okay.
All right, I'm going in, I'm putting 5 stars on you and then offset it.
And, on the review note, because I'm thinking back now, one of our very first, I think it was Zillow reviews, similar situation where it was a rental in West End, like $2,500. Rob and myself were too busy, so we sent one of our admins who was a little bit late or whatnot. The showing didn't go great, and then they gave us a 1-star review.
I know.
And we never even met the person.
Yeah.
And we went back and forth on Zillow, like, can you remove this review? Because we never met the person.
It's not valid, right?
It's not valid, and they would not remove it.
I think for really the real prospects, they can see past a lot of that stuff because I feel as though if you're that quick on the draw with that 1-star review, that maybe that's not your best prospect anyway, lucked out, but you gotta build to get those 5 stars. So.
Usually a lot of times I'm just thinking like, cause I would go on TripAdvisor or Google to look at restaurants or hotels and it's the first thing I usually do is go straight to the negatives because everybody it's a great hotel,
glowing
it's a great
reviews,
restaurant, but let me see what the negativities are.
Yeah.
And if there's like a bunch and it's a consistent message, then maybe there is a theme here versus the one-off that's like, these guys didn't show up or this guy was lazy.
But isn't it funny? Speaking to all 3 of us, the plenty of abundance of good fortune and good things that we have going on in our business and the rest of our lives too. And then you see that and you're like,
one negative.
Oh no, it's a killer.
Right?
It's a killer. So I have to, that's what I'm saying about like being forgiving. I lost a listing this week to a colleague and I walked out of that meeting. It was a very, very fast meeting. And I thought, this is not a good fit. I'm not a good fit for this person. I didn't pursue this person the way I should have. I felt like I'd given them information they didn't like to hear. They didn't love me for that. I turn around, now it's with a colleague. And I thought, okay, I have to get over this because I didn't pursue it. I knew it wasn't a good fit. And they hopefully had a better way of delivering the same exact message. I'm sure it was the same message on pricing and presentation and everything like that. And I mean, more power to that agent because they did it where I walked out and I thought, I am not a good fit. And that's hard for me.
Yeah.
I want all the
Every
listings.
listings,
I
yes.
want everything. And my husband will literally sit there because this is about the time of year. Well, I will look and I'll say, oh God, I'm never going to sell another house because it's, it's the usual slowdown. And he goes, is this what we're doing? Is this the time? Is this where I have to listen to you and
That's
complaining?
Funny.
So
We had a similar situation last night. I was going back and forth. We lost a listing as well to a Compass agent. And I asked the seller, this was going back and forth in email at 9:00. And I was like, can you tell us who the other agent is? Just so I know, in case we have a buyer. And they told me the agent's name. And then I'm not saying we're cutthroat, but we're very aggressive as well. So I went into HomeSnap and I pulled up her HomeSnap. She's done 4 listings in the last 2 years, 11 buy sides. So I did one of those splice photos with me, 149 listings and then 63 sales, splice them together. And just for future references, the market's going sideways. So you want to make sure you have good representation. They were like, it's a really good friend of ours. I'm like, you can fire me on the spot. We're not having an awkward Thanksgiving dinner. So keep that in the back of your mind if you haven't signed the listing, but I wish you the very best. If you have a buyer, or reach out to XYZ Realtor.
I tell you, that's the part. How do we get that conversation going in front of the appointment, right? Like how the kitchen table talk is awesome. We actually have to be delivering that message in advance. Is it reviews? Because sometimes I do. I go in and I'm like, oh, it's a 1-star review. That's an unhappy person. Who's going in and actually writing a 1-star review?
Totally.
So that's really the idea is how do we as agents really differentiate ourselves? Right now, it's volume. And I don't think volume is the right differentiator. The tranches of service should be qualified some other way. And I don't think it's how much you charge in commission either. I don't think that's the way to do it. So I did have somebody ask me to, could you be my buyer agent and then refund a percentage? And I had nothing to say. I said, no. And then she said, well, others will do it. I said, well, that's how they're building their business. That's awesome. You should go do that. And then the person called me and said for me to write her offer. So
I've had that question many times. The answer is just, there's some brokerages where that's their business model. That's not our business model. We're a full service brokerage.
Right.
So we don't offer those things.
Right.
And that's just
and
flat
it's okay.
answer.
Like, I don't even want to apologize for it. It is what it is. This is what it costs to do business. And you can decide. Everybody in DC has a choice. They can go to the gym by themselves or they can hire a personal trainer. They pay a little more. That's kind of the situation. We're the personal trainers of real estate.
So looking on HomeSnap, I can see that, again, you've got Montgomery County covered, but do you have a niche that you want to dive into to share with our listeners?
Sure. I think that what is remarkable about sort of our core group is we do half and half. I mean, we're in DC as much as we are in Maryland, and that buyer looks equally at both sides of the line. And I think for owners who've owned their properties for 40 years, sometimes they forget that the world has changed around them. And so I'll have people equally looking in 20015 as they are looking in Chevy Chase, Maryland, 20815. So sometimes that education is important. And I think we balance that really well. Our agents really do live and work in these neighborhoods. And while I love to be the neighborhood expert, I'm so lucky. I really love my neighborhood. I feel like I'm like a publicist for the hood. I love it. And I do have a lot of friends and I get a lot of business there and I am the expert. But when I go into someone else's neighborhood and they're like, well, we have the neighborhood expert, I hammer that home. I say, yeah, that's a warm and fuzzy. Doesn't that feel good that you're with the neighborhood expert? But let me tell you about our expertise, that sort of thing. So I try not to ding them for their choice because they're going to make that choice. But I also want to create a little bit of an environment of that's just a feel good. That just makes you feel good that you're picking the neighborhood expert. In my case, it really is true, though.
There you go.
So,
will you go outside your comfort zone, like Capitol Hill, Old Town?
We do. I don't do Virginia. So I had a Virginia license and I provided zero value. I was lost half the time. I didn't know the neighborhoods. It's a great divide.
There's a
So
river there for a reason.
there's a huge, it's an ocean. It's not a river,
Right.
it's an ocean. So we are, DC is Switzerland, and then we're Montgomery County. And actually we do a lot. We've done Frederick, we've done Anne Arundel County. And then in Virginia, we just partner. We usually refer based on the clientele. But when the best part is when they're coming in, like a lot of Google people came in, Amazon, and they were like, well, we're going to live in Bethesda or McLean. And I said, okay, you come back to me once you get here and you realize that they're not actually the same thing. And then you'll find yourself gravitating one or the other. So, yeah,
That's smart.
yeah. So we have partners in Virginia, and we do find, sharing that. But in the end, we just really are skirting that Western Avenue.
Yeah, Brent,
line.
you pretty much don't do Virginia really either, do you?
I do a little bit of Virginia. I won't go down into Old Town or like past McLean. It won't go outside of the Beltway. But like Rob loves Virginia. He's buying a place down. My business partner Rob buying a place down in Potomac Yards.
Yeah.
So I mean, I try to stay. I always tell people, if you look at my home snap, it's like Cleveland Park, Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
Like that's where all of my little red and green and yellow dots
It's
are.
it's a better commute too.
It's an easier commute.
But I actually got married in Old Town. I love Old Town. I really thought I would do both, but it's just not worth it to me. I'd rather we have to differentiate ourselves by bringing something unique and different, and that is either perspective or I've been in those houses. I mean, we did probably 25-30% of our deals over the last 2 years were off market, and that's just the phone calls and the networking and all of those things have made a huge difference to our sellers, especially older ones that didn't want people in the house or they were working from home. I think that's changing. I think that I would say that's probably shifted in the last 3 months is the off market, of course, following the clear cooperation, of course.
Yep.
But that sale is not as powerful as it has been. And so I believe the MLS is really where everybody's gravitating right now. I think that fully because the exposure is necessary to bring the traffic.
Yeah, you need the traffic right now. You got we're just gearing things. I saw this was one of your posts on social media talking about. I think what's happening now is agents are pricing properties for one offer because we're not seeing as many multiple offers.
Oh, we were pricing 20% below.
Right.
We would go wholly 20% below. It's almost like an auction. And now we're really in that, maybe 2% below where we think it's going to be, but even that's a little risky. I was calling a bunch of agents, and I don't know if people realize that the agents get on the phone and we start calling other agents and we want to know how many offers and what did you see and how many people came through, and all of that is super important as we price. And pricing for one is still really scary. But we just had one. Not last weekend, the weekend before, 5 offers, escalated 20%. It was in that core Bethesda neighborhood where I live. And I was talking to some colleagues in other parts of the country, and they don't believe that that's the way it always has been. Like, we're just going back to what normally was DC real estate.
Right.
And they're like, well, that's going to end. And I said, well, kind of not. I would have gotten 17 offers. And instead I got 5. And, that's what we expected. So we'll see. I mean, I think the buyers are realizing that the sellers are a little nervous, but they're not going to give away the house. I mean, they're just not going to drop the price tremendously.
Right. Yeah, that would be a rare situation at this point.
Yeah.
No, you're well situated. It's like new agents listening, they should think about moving into Montgomery County, Bethesda, what is it, Edgemore, like one of those like well-educated, affluent neighborhoods that they're always going to be there.
Yeah. And even in COVID, it didn't change. It just became more, it just amplified the benefits of
these
of
A+
living there.
locations became like A++.
Right.
A++. I didn't know that the house that I bought in 1998 was going to be this great little find. It was the most expensive thing ever. And I would drive from Old Town. I would drive to my office in Friendship Heights, and I would sometimes drive into this neighborhood and just daydream about, having a kid and what would it be like to live so close to the office. And this little house came on, and it was $280,000 or something crazy. I couldn't believe how much it was. So I got before the first wave. Thank God.
You're in the same house?
Yeah.
That's impressive as a realtor, because I think I've been in 8 or 9 houses.
You buy
in 10
and sell
years.
houses all the time. It's crazy.
I tried to move many times, couldn't do it. I was in the bubble. It was in the 2004, 5, and 6. And so we ended up more than doubling the size of our house. So now I'm in a 6,000 square foot house.
If the location
Started
works,
as a 1,200 square foot house.
if the location works and it's, it's still giving you all the things you need and you have that ability,
Yeah.
then that's,
But it's I find that these fill in neighborhoods, the small house, what's really sad is the small house has so much value, but people like me, I've already expanded it, right? So now it's a 6,000 square foot house versus the 1,200 square foot house. And there is something about these little houses. I just want to protect them. Downsizers, first time home buyers, divorced people, single people, whatever your need, you are not able to buy a property in these close-in locations because all the houses are turning over. So I think there's actually more value in the smaller houses if you make them really cute, and like the one we had 5 offers on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was small.
We got a few more minutes. I wanted to talk about your social media strategy. It's pretty robust, actually, what you're doing on your social media, on your Instagram.
So that's all me.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you a secret. It's called menopause because I am awake. I'm awake. I'm not sleeping. No, I'm laughing because it's my background. My degree is journalism. My background is marketing. And I feel like everything that we talk about as agents should be captured and put out for consumption by our target audience. So this idea like you had of well, here's an agent and they've done 4 listings and I've done 157. Where's that message? Get that graphic out there and just have it out there, because people will start discovering you and they'll hit that message exactly when they need that message. It may not be right now. It may be 3 weeks from now, but it's on your, it's evergreen. And so all those little things that you want to say to these clients, you got to capture it. It doesn't have to be fancy. I don't dance. I'm not fancy in, a lot of those things. I'll never need to do the drone shots. I sell small houses in Bethesda. Well, some are bigger. But that social media is more of me trying to get to as many people as possible, because I can't go on every buyer appointment and I can't be there for them physically, but they feel like I'm talking to them. They really do.
Yeah. I was going through your reels and you're just sort of speaking. It seems like off the cuff, as the things that you're doing during the day and what you're talking about, and like market conditions, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be, like in terms of having the right kind of energy to keep creating things.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest way to make sure you're going to continue to create things.
Yeah.
Because if you try to come up with some incredibly edited, perfect looking, it's not going to happen.
Somebody's going to do that and it's going to be awesome. It's just not going to be me. Right. And I think my poor team, they know when I'm on a roll, because I will be, if you keep saying something over and over, like I had one where I realized the buyers were under the impression that the sellers in Maryland would pay their closing costs, right? First-time home buyers. And I had that question like 3 times in a week. And I thought, how are people not getting this? And so that became one of the things. And then I put it on Google. You have it on your social media so people can come back and consume it. And I also get a chance to just speak directly to that buyer who's out there thinking I'm not serving them, because really the answer is it's not. In the Montgomery County jurisdictional, they removed that idea of the seller paying the closing costs. It's removed. It's not even valid. So, yeah, thanks. So you're okay. I'll send one to you directly. That'll be
sounds good.
Just one last question for me. Do you ever track back your business? Like, where is the bulk of your business coming from, buyers or sellers?
So it was a real 50-50 split for a long time. We're leaning a little more towards listings right now. I think that there's just what we bring to the table is just a little, it's too good. We're gonna start offsetting buyers, and buyers were really having a hard time landing anything. So I think we're pretty good in terms of that split 50-50, because we want to know. We get so many offers put in, and you guys know this. You learn how others write offers so that you can be better prepared to write your buyer an offer. So
that's good insight.
Yeah. And I think that the listings, the sellers know that when I say, we've seen 10 different offers in this neighborhood, here's what you can expect. You can expect this, you can expect that. And
where do you think these people find you, whether it's a buyer or a seller?
The majority are my farm, for sure. I spent 15 years in my neighborhood just cultivating relationships. And I was very, I'm a mom. I can't help it. It's who I am. I'm never going to be a cool guy that lives in DuPont. It's just
Right.
not who I am. So I'm okay with that. And then I was president of a foundation and I raised money. And so people saw me doing that. So instead of me being the minivan driving mom, they saw me as somebody who, oh, she's got a mind about her. She has a business about her. So, and we do we still believe in the open house. I don't know if you guys are still doing a lot of open houses.
We do them.
Yeah.
Never been my favorite thing to do. But
Never been your favorite thing. Oh, we
Yeah.
love them. It's a party.
I do it just audition for potential sellers coming through. Like I don't want to do it to pick up a buyer, but I'll do it. I'll have like a nice presentation, everything very knowledgeable on the property,
Right.
the neighborhood we're selling in.
Right.
Hopeful that a neighbor comes through and is like, I like this guy in his presentation
Yeah.
and how he articulates everything to the consumer. Let's bring him in 3 months when we're ready to sell.
Oh, and that's the whole thing. I had a guy call me, didn't know who he was. He said, 3 years ago, I came into an open house. We were covered in mud. We had been gardening. We had our 4-year-old. You were so nice to us. We never forgot that. And now we're going to sell our house. And I didn't know who he was. I didn't remember meeting him, but he remembered that one moment that he walked into the open house. And I was just as happy to see him as I would have been anybody who walked in with a bucket of money. I didn't care. I was like, yay, somebody's here. So yeah, I think the business for our marketplace is we all need to buckle up. It's going to be a little bumpy, but I think it elevates our service. The agents who were there for, the run, they'll fall out. And then the agents that are really bringing something extra, everything to this client should be service. That's it. And then you'll be fine.
Dana, you gave us so many great tidbits here. I was going to ask you the question of what advice would you give to up and coming agents? But I'm just going to tell any up and coming agent just to go back and listen to this thing a couple times, and then you'll get it.
You have amazing energy too. I mean,
Yeah.
sitting here with you, I mean, it's it comes across the table. Like you're very energetic, and I'm sure that comes across to your clients and other agents you're working with and against. It's impressive.
I realize I have an incredible operator, and I've had her. She's been by my side for 5 years, and I realize what I was missing was the operator behind me, because otherwise it's just chaos and that sort of thing. And when you have that combination of art and science, then you're unstoppable. But thank you. That's so nice.
Well, Brent's going to hit you with some rapid fire
Oh God.
questions.
Okay. Here we go.
Here we go. What is your guilty pleasure?
Oh, easy. I watch Friends on repeat. It's like in the background. I put it on and it just allows me. It's just.
How many times have you watched Friends all the way through?
Oh my God. It's embarrassing because I didn't watch it in the first run. Maybe it's because now I look back and I was like, oh, I used to be that thin. I used to look like that. So I just kind of put it on and it just kind of repeats. So.
Curious, did you ever cry on any of those episodes?
No.
I mean, like when Rachel came back, like the very last
Brent,
episode.
you have.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
Clearly
it's
why you're asking.
emotional. I mean, it's pretty good. Like
I got to tell you, I've come full circle on the acting. I didn't, they're my contemporaries. They were the age I was when I was going through all those things. Now I look back and I'm like, oh, they're so cute. They didn't have jobs. They didn't have anybody they loved. It's all new to me. So
this is one of our rapid fire. Who would play you? Which Friends character are you?
I am likely David Schwimmer. I am Ross. So
You're Ross.
I am. I want to, that would be me. The rest of them, no.
Awesome.
No.
What's your hobby outside of real estate?
I hate this question. I don't have a hobby. I love videos and I love multimedia. I before I did this, my sister and I had a photography company called Sisters Media, and we did all the photos and everything. That's when I realized I need to get out of that business, because when you have talent in that business, it's not even hard. Like I was struggling. I would, learn all of the Photoshop and everything like that. And so I still have an eye. I love the creative part, but it is not a way for me to make a living, for sure.
So you recommended I Don't Forgive You earlier. Is there another book you would recommend?
I do a lot of the, true stories and, the stories that are people's lessons in life. So, and mainly it's when my kids have a required reading in school, and then I'll just read that book.
Right.
So the other Wes Moore and, anything that they have to read, I'll read, and then I'll be able to prompt them. politely to do their homework.
What's the last live concert you attended?
Oh, that's a good one. The last live concert, oh God, it was Cheap Trick, and it was at the beach. My son I have a son in college, and he is way into like 60s, 70s, 80s rock. And so we took him to Cheap Trick at the beach.
That's great.
What kind of size venue is Cheap Trick playing? Like, when was this?
Oh, this is in Bethany. We bought a COVID
okay.
house. We bought a beach house during COVID. And so they have this Freeman Arts Center, and they are bringing in like actual acts because why not, at the beach. So I highly recommend it if
Cool.
you guys are out at the beach.
That's all the questions.
All right. Well, Dana, awesome stuff. Thank you
Thanks,
so much
guys.
for coming on. We always give a donation to the charity of our guest choice. Do you have
Oh,
anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Yes. Juvenile Diabetes Foundation, please. My son is a type 1 diabetic, and that's a whole other world. And, you know, we can't be too upset about things when you have people in front of you, you know, dealing with really tough things in life. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
All right.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to Keyed In with your hosts, Max and Brent, unlocking the minds of the industry's top real estate professionals. For more information on selling your home, find us online at keyedinpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe to Keyed In on Apple Podcasts or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Keyed In Podcast, at Raven Max, and at Brent E. Jackson. And follow Max on TikTok at MaxwellRaven_properties.